It's not so much that I'm ignoring you, it's that I'm so overwhelmed. I can't even pick up the phone and make my thumbs move. Hey, Cole, how are you doing?
I am doing well. Happy Tuesday, Duane. How are you?
Woohoo! I'm doing great, and I want to welcome everybody to another episode of Math on the Rocks, where Cole and I and Scott, although Scott, it's golf season, so Scott's not here, where we essentially just record our conversation because we always have stuff that we need to bounce ideas off of, and that's what we're doing here today. We're just recording our conversation for the 6 people who listen. Cole, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. There's a lot of spinning plates right now in our worlds between some CNC stuff that we got planned and some big county office work that we've just initiated, and so a lot of plates in the air, but all great work. I'm very excited about it. Just got to kind of get myself reorganized.
Same, right back at you. In fact, you texted me a list of things that we need to do. And I'm like, well, it's perfect timing. Let's record a podcast and do some of the things that were on the list. Because a couple of episodes ago, you had the idea of us doing at CMC grade level virtual workshops, 2 or 3 for a year. So that would, like, if we did 4 a year across maybe 9 grades, let's say, that's 36 workshops you were talking about. That was such a great idea. And that isn't even on our list that you wanted to talk about today. So
I mean, I was only slightly kidding when I said I felt like you were ignoring me, Duane, in that text. You just keep dumping things on the plate and you're like, oh yeah, and I won't talk to you for 2 more weeks. And just we carry on with life.
It's not so much that I'm ignoring you, it's that I'm so overwhelmed. I can't even pick up the phone and make my thumbs move, and hit the buttons, because I'm like paralyzed by how much work I'm getting buried under. That's crazy. Speaking of work, what's going on with CMC?
Well, so we have this Thursday, Christina Lincoln Moore is joining us for the Inspiring Math Minds webinar series. So we're super excited about that. Should be a great session. And then, you and I are in the mix of planning our P2 series. We'll have 5 stops along the way. And boy, every time I say that, it just gets better and better. And, I imagine we could have more stops if you were interested, because people are now reaching out saying, hey, how do I get involved in that work?
Are they really?
They are.
Now, are they wanting to get involved to help us with the work, or are they just wanting to get involved to be in the passenger seat and be in the audience?
They're saying, hey, I would love to get involved and offer you a place to replicate some of that work.
Okay. Well, that's actually half the battle, is finding a stinking location.
So good to come. And then I had lunch with an old friend of ours today.
Really?
Yeah, who wants to get involved in some of that work to help, with some lunch or breakfast or, in the series. And so,
okay.
So good fun. Our good old friend Lloyd has found a new home, come out of retirement. I know. Has come out of retirement and is wanting to get back involved in some of our work. And so I said, well, good news. We have a lot of things coming up for you to get back involved in. So we will be connecting with him again.
That is great. Good old Lloyd, man. I love that guy.
Yeah.
That's good. So apparently retirement just did not work for him, and he's back in the business.
He has not figured out how to be retired yet.
Right, so, right. That doesn't surprise me much.
No, but yeah, so very cool to see him today and kind of talk about that. But so we're in the mix of planning. We have some of our partners that are actually going to help us present some of the workshops that we've got to reconnect with and start getting content aligned and all of that work. But yeah, good stuff. Very excited for those educators and especially the P2 area as we engage in that work.
Right. We've got the symposium, but let's ignore that for a second. Can I pull a thread on that P2 kind of idea that we have? So for the people in the audience, this is legit, man. This is, you and I are just recording this, and we're recording a conversation. So this is okay. So here's my concern about the P2 conference, and you can talk me off the ledge because I am trying. Here's my phone. I'm trying to eliminate things from my plate. And one of the things I would not mind eliminating would be 5 Saturdays up and down the state of California for, this. Now, you and I had this idea because we know it's important that P2 teachers, which includes daycare, right? So we need to somehow even come up with a better name than just P2, because that kind of feels very like public school, but we're inviting daycare teachers. Am I right?
In-home providers, yeah.
In-home providers. So we have to come up with a better name. But we came up with that idea because we know early math experiences for kids are incredibly important. Early math, spatial visualization, playing with objects and stuff is a really good predictor of reading. And in fact, early math skills are a better predictor of reading than early reading is a predictor of reading. So we need to get people early on seeing themselves as instrumental in the math world for these little human beings. And so that's why we're doing the conferences. But man, I'm nervous. I don't know if anybody is going to come to the conference because I don't know if they see themselves as math teachers, even though we're titling it P2. I'm afraid that we're going to have these 5 conferences and we're going to have a total of 6 people show up across all 5 conferences. So that's my vomit. Now clean it up. What do we do here?
And I'm not concerned about that at all.
Oh, okay. I'm glad we are recording this.
Yeah.
Tell me why you're not worried.
So right now in the state, with all the need around schools getting themselves ready for universal TK, transitional kindergarten, universal preschool programs, districts are now and teachers are now being asked to really think about the TK and preschool very differently than they have before, because there's just more of them. So they're really having to treat that not as one class that I have on one of my sites or one of 5 of my sites. Every single school site will have a TK program on it, and some of them multiple classes, because they will be taking students, all 4-year-olds, at the start of this next school year. Well, teaching a 4-year-old, and in some cases 3 years old, because they only have to be 4 by September 1st,
right,
is drastically different than teaching a 5-year-old, right? You want to make sure that education is developmentally appropriate, play-based in that instruction. And to be honest with you, a lot of districts are not quite ready for that. They're going to be looking for any opportunity they can, especially early in the school year, to prepare those teachers to support that instruction in a meaningful way. And for instance, like we ran a math series at Kern this last year. It was a 4 or 5 day Saturday series. It was sold out.
Really?
And it was TK teachers, preschool teachers. I mean, the need is there because there are so few options geared towards that specific group of teachers that are giving them exactly what they need to support their students, that any opportunity, right, is an opportunity they want to invest their time in. And so I'm not worried about it, because all the county offices up and down the state also have initiatives aligned to support early education. And all we're doing is saying, hey, just take the list of people you already know and let them know we're going to be in your area.
All right. So you're moving me. You're moving me from being fearful to being skeptical. Okay. Which I don't know if that's progress or if we're going backwards. But
let me just say it this way. You said 6. You're worried about 6. I'm worried about keeping it under 150.
Oh my gosh. Per session. Oh my gosh. Okay. So what I'm skeptical about is how, like you're saying there's a need, and I'm sold. I get it. You are correct, right? But just because there's a need doesn't mean people see themselves as being invited and coming to attend.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we bridge that divide of going beyond just saying, well, it's needed, so therefore people will magically show up, and actually get them there and make them feel invited and compelled to come? That's, I guess, you've moved me. Okay, so now I'm no longer afraid, but now I'm skeptical. How do we do that?
Well, I think we need to be very mindful in how we market this particular series, right? I think that one of the struggles that I have kind of noticed as we've been trying to pull off our symposium and try to create a space so that TK P2 teachers, they feel like they have a home at our bigger conferences. Sometimes that hasn't resonated well because they're still not showing up in the numbers that I feel they should be showing up, right?
Right.
But I think that we can be very intentional in how we market and the sessions we select to happen at those mini conferences, to let them know like this was designed from beginning to end with what they need in mind, right? And that might mean it's maybe the series name itself is something different, and CMC is little on the flyer as opposed to the prominent thing. It's a play-based learning, a math experience,
Right.
hosted by CMC Central, or something along the lines. So they really, like, we are designing that day of learning to be exactly what they need to support their classroom.
So like, I don't know, kind of like speaking their language and saying, this is going to be joyful, this is going to be play-based, this is, that kind of.
All the words that you hate, we'll make sure are on the flyer. I'm just kidding.
No, because when people think of math, they think of worksheets and algorithms and stuff. So as a consequence, if that's the kind of math they're thinking about, if I'm a daycare teacher or an in-home provider or a preschool teacher, and that's the kind of math I'm thinking, then I'm going to say, well, then that's not for me, because I work with 3 and 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds who can't even hold a pencil, let alone do a worksheet or do an algorithm. So we have to kind of make sure we're clear on the flyers or whatever in our marketing, that this is joyful and play-based and no worksheets. So somehow we need to have a no worksheet symbol on in our marketing.
And we'll do learning stations, counting collection time. There will be a lot of that kind of work happening, right? So we need to be very clear, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun day of learning.
Yeah.
For them. But I think that's going to be a really important piece. I also think about, how do we build momentum across the series and capture evidence of maybe the first one, we don't get the 150 that I think we probably will get.
Right.
But how do we capture the learning from that to broadcast and say, we'll see you at our next one, and utilizing images or video or something from that to let it build momentum across the series? Because I don't see this as a just this year event. I see this as we are piloting something because we know there's a need, and we're going to evolve it over the years to come. And it's okay if we only end up with 6 in some places, because we're building that, right? And so only 6 showed up, but maybe they're going to invite us back, in January, because that was so great. We really wish you'd do it again, because now I know what it is and I'm going to invite my team, right? Like, we're going to be able to build that audience kind of as we go, because word of mouth is going to be our best friend in this world, right? We don't have street cred with TK2 teachers.
Right.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us, okay, I think I remember, but why don't you say, why do these people have to come? There's training that they have to document they're receiving. There's value in kids learning math at an early, or start at birth. I mean, I remember reading to my child in utero, because we know the society has bought into this idea that reading is fundamental. It's important. We've got to do it. I don't think we have the same belief when it comes to mathematics, counting and touching and holding things and stacking things and the kinds of conversations we have with our kids when those things are going on. I don't know if we've convinced people that math is as important in the early ages as reading is.
Yeah.
So why don't you go through a list of why it's important for people to come, starting with maybe the fact that they have to get PD hours, and then go through your list.
Yeah. So on the preschool side, there is like a number of hours. I think it's like 20 hours or 30 hours, something like that, like every year or every so many years that they have to get, right? So coming to this session, we would be able to give them a certificate that says, look, you've gotten 6 of those hours by participating in this, right? So there would be the quote unquote like mandatory things that they have to do and how we're supporting that. But I think that that's something they're getting by being there, but I don't think that's where the real impact is. The real impact is, we're bringing together P2 intentionally. Because you and I even kicked around the idea, well, why not make it P3? Right? Why P2? What is important about it, keeping it contained like that? And we started talking about, well, once you jump to 3rd grade, the skills that you're working on really shift, right? You move into multiplication, division, and there's a whole nother continuum that they kind of start to go down.
Right.
Whereas when we bring together P2 teachers, it's going to be play-based, which is what should be happening across that entire spectrum of grade levels, not just in preschool and TK, but kindergarten should also be a play-based, inquiry-based math learning environment. 1st grade should be play-based, right?
Yes.
None of those grades say, let's do worksheets.
Right.
None of them. And you could argue that all the way up, but let's just stay with P2 right now. All of those should be an inquiry-driven, play-based learning experience for kids in a variety of different ways. But what's beautiful about bringing P2 together is we actually are going to have an opportunity to have a talk about P2 coherence and how our skills that are in the learning foundations documents linked to the kindergarten through 2nd grade standards, right? And why is it so important that we treat TK not like kindergarten, but TK is actually much more aligned to preschool.
Sure.
Right? It's a 2nd year of preschool as opposed to a 1st year of kinder. But when kindergarten or TK was rolled out, everyone associated it with just early kindergarten.
Yep.
And then you started getting worksheets in TK, and you started like forcing kids to write when they weren't ready to write. And all these bad habits were established because of how it was rolled out. But now in this new rollout, they really are at the state level trying to redefine that TK is preschool, like treat it like preschool, but like later on in that development of preschool, right? But we can have really rich, deep conversations about the mathematics that is happening across that P2 continuum and developing coherence about numeracy skills that are being developed, talking about how addition is developed, like, and on this continuum all the way through 2nd grade, but what does that look like, early on in preschool? What skills are being developed there to help kids be ready for, adding within 100 in 2nd grade, right? And all of that will be developed kind of through this play-based experience so that there is more alignment of language and understanding of why I shouldn't speed past this thing in kindergarten or 1st grade, because of where does it end? Where is it going? And what should they be coming to me with? And so if I have a kid that may not be ready yet, the floor isn't low enough for them to access whatever I'm trying to teach, I can also think about, well, where do I need to back up to from the grade before to kind of rebuild that foundation? Right. So I think it's going to be a really great, I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be a really great day of learning, and helping those grade level teams really think about, like, what does mathematics look like for 3 to 8-year-olds.
Right. And when we're thinking about math and play, to help people see that these are not 2 separate things, that they are actually compatible, that we can do rigorous and meaningful math learning in the context of play. So as far as the kids are concerned, they may be playing. As far as the adults are concerned, it's serious play. The kids are having fun, but what we have done is we've designed the classroom environment so that what the kids are playing is intimately connected to mathematics, and the teachers can, and the aides and the parents can ask the kinds of questions any interested adult would ask to draw out the math for as far as the kids are concerned. For example, if they're playing building towers, and so the activity is there, the two kids are playing and building towers, you could say, who has the taller tower? Whose tower is shorter? This idea of taller, shorter, longer, more, less, that's math. But it's being done in the context of kids playing with towers. And it's the teachers whose responsibility is to kind of draw out the math while the kids are playing. The play is designed by the adults in the room so that the math can be drawn out during the play. Is that kind of what you're...
Well, yeah. And I think that it's important to note too, the teacher is still firmly in control of the learning goal, right? Like it's not just a free-for-all play. It's play by design,
right,
with a very clear learning goal. And as they're playing, as a teacher, you still know what you're looking for to see evidence of, are they moving towards proficiency in these skills that you're, and so I think that sometimes whenever you talked about play with administrators, they think, well, then no learning's happening.
Right. They're thinking recess.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, play-based learning does not mean recess. Play-based learning is kids engaged in fun play activities carefully constructed and designed by the teachers, which is not recess. And these things can then form the foundation for the kids to do math.
Yeah. So interesting. Last night, my son, 5 years old, he kindergarten. He's got these like little Connect cubes, the snap cubes.
Yeah.
And he decided, like last night while he was playing, he was going to build out of his snap cubes a robot. Okay, just like he was just playing with his snap cubes. And I guess I almost feel bad for him that he has to live with me. But without me asking anything, he said, "Look, Dad, I built a robot with 20 cubes."
Oh, wow.
I said, "Well, how do you know that there's 20?" "Well, I counted by fives." And I said, "Well, how did you count? Show me where your fives are at." Well, each of his legs had 5, and then the body was 10, but he's like, "But look, 5 and 5.
Oh, wow.
Right? And so, I mean, he's clearly able to group numbers and see like quickly, the associations of what's happening. But that was him playing and him making that association with what he was doing in kindergarten.
Right.
Around numbers, right? And that just goes to show, like, math is all around them, and kids could be making those connections at school, at home, right? I just thought it was really interesting. Well, without being prompted, he wanted to make sure that I knew he had 20 blocks in his creation.
And so in play-based learning, though, not everybody is going to be like your son and just walk up to the teacher unsolicited and say, "I used 17 cubes to build my car." But it's the training that they're going to receive at our P2 conferences is becoming aware of what kinds of conversations, what kinds of questions could you ask a kid just because you're curious. But in the act of you asking these curious questions, you're actually drawing out mathematics from the kid and understanding whether the kid is making progress in that area. For example, how many cubes did you use to build that car? And most kids are going to go, "I don't know, I was just building it." And then the teacher can say, "Well, count them." And how the kid is counting cubes in a car, and it was play, but now the teacher is getting the kind of information they need within that play.
And then you stretch it. You say, "Oh, well, what if you had 10 more blocks? What would you do? How many blocks would you have?" Like, you can then expand beyond and continue them in that play experience, but stretch their thinking.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So we're going to wrap this up. I started out almost fearful or dreading the idea of us doing conference. You moved me to skepticism. I'm looking forward to the play. I knew I was always looking forward to the play. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens when we start marketing this and trying to make sure everybody sees themselves as a member of a math community. And that play-based learning is first off rigorous, but how do we help them? I'm looking forward to seeing whether we really get them on board and coming to the conference. And so I'm going to encourage people who are listening to this to I don't know, first off, maybe forward the podcast to your P2 colleagues, encourage them to go to sign up to the nearest conference. We've got 5 of them. So one of them is going to be close to somebody's house. We're going to put all this in the speaker notes, right?
Certainly. I'm just sitting here thinking, like, what are you going to do when we decide that, there's 52 Saturdays in a year?
Oh, that hurts, man. That just hurts. All right. Should we remind everybody to press the darn subscribe button and then just end before you try and cram in a 53rd Saturday in the year? Because the longer I'm here on the phone with you, the more likely you're going to find some more work for me to do.
Well, there's no Saturday like next Saturday.
That is so true. Hey, Cole, thank you very much, man.
Yeah, take care.
All right. See ya.